Listen closely, because what you're about to hear isn't a ghost story. It's something far more unsettling. A ringing phone at 2:47 a.m. That sound, sharp, piercing, unwanted, always carries a weight, doesn't it? Because no one calls at that hour with good news. The first story begins in a quiet Midwest town. A young man, let's call him Ethan, working late in a small-town gas station. You know the kind. One flickering fluorescent light above the door. Aisles so empty you can hear your own breath echo. It was his fourth night shift that week. He was exhausted, barely keeping his eyes open. And then the phone rang. Now, this wasn't a customer line. This was the emergency line, the one that only his manager and the police had. Ethan picked up. Station 12. Ethan speaking. Silence. He heard what sounded like static. And then, a voice. Whispering. Fragile. Like a dying breath. Don't go outside. Not tonight. He froze. His throat tightened as if the air itself had turned cold. Who is this? He asked. But there was only a low, dragging inhale. Then the line went dead. Minutes passed. His heart didn't slow down. The outside lights began, flickering, first the sign, then the parking lot lamps. Through the glass door, he swore he saw a shadow, tall, unmoving, like someone standing just beyond the pumps. He picked up the phone to call back, but the line was dead. He checked the logs. No incoming call recorded. Nothing. It never happened, at least according to the system. That night, Ethan never left the counter. He said, by 4 a.m., the shadow was gone. But the next morning, his manager found muddy footprints leading from the pumps, straight to the door. And they didn't belong to Ethan. Pause for a moment. Think about that ringing phone. That whisper. And ask yourself this. What if some calls aren't meant to be answered? Ever driven down a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere, when the only lights are your headlights and that faint green glow from your dashboard clock? 2:13 a.m., Wyoming County, cold air, frost on the roadside signs. A woman named Claire worked as a 911 dispatcher there. She wasn't a rookie. 10 years in that chair, headphones on, coffee going cold beside the keyboard. She'd heard it all. Domestic fights, drunk drivers, coyotes getting too close to the farm. But this call? This one still plays in her head. Every single night. It came in soft. Not a scream. Not a crash. Just a trembling voice. A young boy. Maybe 8. Maybe 9. He whispered, "Ma'am, my daddy's outside, but he's knocking on the window." Claire typed in the location. An old farmhouse outside of Rawlins, middle of nowhere, no neighbors for miles. She asked, "Honey, where's your mom?" Long pause. "She's in bed. But Daddy died last year." The line cracked. Static bled through. Claire's throat went dry. She asked him to stay on the phone. Told him to go to the kitchen, lock the door, stay away from the glass. Deputies were dispatched. 20 minutes out. The boy whispered again, "He's smiling." "Ma'am, he's smiling too much." And then, silence. No breath, no static, just the hollow click of the line dropping. When deputies arrived, the back door was wide open. The kitchen table had a phone, off the hook, still warm from the boy's hands. But no child, no tracks in the snow. Except one set, barefoot, heading toward the tree line. And here's what makes this worse. Claire called that number back over and over for hours. The line was never registered. No service provider. No family by that name in county records. The farmhouse had been empty for 7 years. Pause here. If you're listening to this, think of every missed call, every late-night ring you ignored. What if one day it's not spam? Not a wrong number. What if it's a voice? From somewhere that shouldn't exist. There's something about the American interstate. Mile after mile of blacktop, no shoulders, no exits. Just the hum of 18 wheels and the glow of a lone gas sign 50 miles out. Case 3 comes from a trucker named Dale, 32 years behind the wheel, moving freight from Amarillo to Sioux Falls. He wasn't the type to spook. Easy. Ex-Marine. Carried his Colt under the seat. Lived on black coffee and country radio. It was just past 3 a.m., somewhere along I-90 in South Dakota. No other rigs in sight, no taillights for 100 miles. And then, his CB crackled. Not the radio, not dispatch, the payphone call at the truck stop he'd just passed. But here's the strange thing. His cell was on silent, locked in the glove box. Yet the truck's built-in hands-free line started ringing. He answered, thinking it might be dispatch. Dale here. Dead air. Then a woman's voice. Calm, cold, like she was reading from a script. You missed. Your turn. They're already in your trailer. Dale laughed at first. Lady, I'm hauling air filters. Ain't nobody in there. But she cut him off. No, not that trailer. The one behind you. He checked. His mirrors. Empty highway. Nothing. For a second, he thought maybe she meant the last rest area, but he hadn't stopped in over 3 hours. Then the voice dropped to a whisper. Do not stop at the next diner. The man in the yellow cap is not what he seems. And click. Line dead. Dale pulled over 2 exits later, heart pounding like a loose piston. He checked the trailer, padlock intact, seals unbroken. But on the asphalt, under the sodium lights, were wet boot prints, leading from the back bumper out into the prairie grass. When he called the number back, no record, not even a call log on his carrier statement. Weeks later, he drove the same route, same hour, same empty road. At the exact diner she mentioned, a man in a yellow cap sat alone. Dale swears. The man never blinked once. Pause here, because every American highway has its ghosts. Some ride the lanes, some wait at the diners, and some know your name before you even pull in. By now, you're thinking, maybe these calls are just myths. Stories truckers swap at diners. Dispatchers tell when the night gets too long. But here's where it cuts deeper. Because these calls, they leave footprints. Not the kind you can sweep off a porch, but the kind that show up in county archives, in faded ledgers, in those locked drawers inside small-town sheriff's offices. Take Marion, Nebraska, population barely 2,000. A librarian. There, Mrs. Kellerman found something strange. A stack of handwritten logs from 1968. Back then, phones still had cords. And party lines carried your neighbor's secrets like wildfire. In those logs, 8 separate calls, same night, same time. 1:47 a.m., different families, different addresses. Each wrote the same thing. Male voice. Said, they're already in the house. Then line went cold. Next morning, 3 houses empty, doors locked from the inside. Coffee still warm in one. Cars in the driveway. No footprints in the frost except a straight line. Cutting through the cornfield. Local papers called it the Marion Mystery. But the county sheriff and a man named Tom Brixby sealed those logs in an evidence box. Because even back then, the calls had no origin. No wires leading in, just a voice on the wind. And here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Every decade, those calls come back. Not the same voices, not the same words, but the same pattern. A whisper, a warning, a vanishing. Pause. Look around you. Your own street. That one house that never keeps its lights on. The mailbox with no name. How many missed calls have you deleted without listening to the full voicemail? Now here's where I want you to step in. If you're still here and your gut's telling you this isn't just a story, prove you heard me. Type this below. Twice. I hear the ring twice. I hear the ring twice. Because that comment, it tells me you're awake now. You're not just scrolling, you're listening. There's a reason these stories cling to the underbelly of America. Not in Times Square, not in Los Angeles boulevards, but out there, along the rusted grain silos of Kansas, the two-lane blacktops of West Virginia, where gas is still paid in cash and the waitress calls you Han, even if she's never seen you before. The calls follow the cracks. They bleed through rotary phones in dying towns, through motel lobby lines where the carpet smells like rain-soaked tobacco. Consider Highway 212, Montana. An old state trooper named Reeves found a call sheet taped to his windshield one frost-bitten morning. No envelope, just a list of names. 4 families. Every one of them lived along that stretch. Every one of them gone by winter's end. No forced entry, mail, piled up like autumn leaves. Dogs still in the backyard, unfed but alive. The calls are not random. They map to something older than the highway system itself. Old railway lines, abandoned grain routes, places where the prairie meets the pines and the radio cuts to static. Now, here's where you come in. Most viewers click away by now. They don't want the burden of knowing. But if you're still watching, you're already on the map. This is the crossroad moment. You can scroll, forget this video, or you can anchor yourself right here, right now. Comment this phrase below. It marks you as a listener, not just a watcher. I stay on the line. I stay on the line. Do it twice. Because repetition is a key. It tells the algorithm, and something older than the algorithm, that you are part of this pattern now. You're in the diner booth, the coffee's still hot, and the phone is about to ring. Here's the part they tried to bury. You think urban legends survive because kids whisper them? No. They survive because someone in an office basement signed a paper that said, "Do not release." In 1993, a Freedom of Information Act request surfaced in Dane County, Wisconsin. Filed by a local journalist named Marlon Fisk. He was chasing a string of missing persons that ran along the old U.S. Route 14. What he got back was a single photocopied memo from Bell Telephone Archives. It read, "Switchboard records from 1952-1971 show an anomaly. Multiple inbound calls logged with no originating number, each time stamped within 1 minute of verified disappearances." They called them ghost switch calls, not because they were supernatural, but because no hardware traced them, no relay. No trunk line. The circuits were cold, yet the voice came through clear as a church bell on a snowy morning. And here's what chills me even now. One retired operator, 82 years old when they found him, wrote a letter to the Dane County clerk. He said, "Those calls, they didn't come from the lines. They came from in between them." Think about that. Not from the line, not from the phone, from the silence that rides between the wires, from the same silence you hear now, when your Bluetooth drops for a heartbeat. America runs on infrastructure, roads, rails, wires, but it also runs on what hides between them. If you've ever stood alone in a county fairground after midnight, you know that hum in the air. Not power lines, not the wind. That hum that feels like someone waiting for you to pick up. This is your crossroad again. Most men choose to sleep through this moment. They put the phone face down. They let the line ring out. But you're still here. So here's your mark. Write this phrase twice below. The line hums. The line hums. Because this isn't just content anymore. It's a key. Every word you repeat, it tunes you to a frequency men have ignored for 50 years. The one that doesn't ask permission. The one that always, always calls back. If you've driven through the Midwest in late October, you know the air carries more than just cold. It carries echoes, the kind that travel from silo to silo across soybean fields and slip into state park cabins where the only light comes from a buzzing vending machine. Last month, A trucker heading out of Amarillo, Texas, stopped at a Love's Rest area. Same kind you've probably been to if you've done a midnight run. He heard the payphone ring. Only problem? The line was cut 3 years ago. That's the pattern now. The calls don't need lines. They ride on Wi-Fi shadows, on emergency broadcast tests, on the quiet stretch between two cell towers. And they don't just call the what's missing anymore. They call the ones who watch. The ones who stop scrolling when the algorithm throws them something strange, like this. Let me be blunt. If you've listened this far, you're on the ledger. Not a conspiracy, not a warning, just the truth. Every sheriff from Boone County, Missouri to Flagstaff, Arizona has quietly stopped filing reports about. The men who vanish now, they leave their cars running at the pump, wallets still in the dash. Sometimes, the clerk says they walked outside to take a call. No one saw them walk back. Here's what seals your position. Comment this, not once, twice. I hear the ring. I hear the ring. It's not for me. It's for you. Every man who writes it, says it, owns it. Steps one rung lower into the truth. The rung where you stop asking, is this real? And start asking, what's next? America doesn't keep these things in the open. They tuck them between county archives, behind the photo booth at the old Greyhound terminal, inside a file marked non-critical telecommunications. But the calls don't care about files. They care about listeners. There's a term buried deep in an old Homeland Security memorandum, Continuity Echo Protocol. Not in the mainstream records you can pull from the National archives, but in the redacted black bar releases that FOIA clerks whisper about when the coffee runs cold. It started as a Cold War experiment, a network of relay towers stretching from the Dakota Plains to the Carolinas, meant to carry a signal that would survive nuclear winter. But something else hitched a ride. They logged the first phantom call in 1964, just outside Tucumcari, New Mexico, on a stretch of Route 66 that's now half buried, under interstate concrete. The phone rang in an abandoned diner at 2:13 a.m. Sheriff's deputy answered it. Voice said, "We already moved them." Nobody ever found out who them was. Fast forward to this year, dispatches from Fargo, North Dakota, Mobile, Alabama, even the deep back roads of Appalachia, men hearing a ringtone that doesn't match their phone. Tone like an old Bell telephone line waking up after 40 years in the ground. And when they answer, they don't scream, they don't run, they just step off the map. Look around your own town, the boarded-up bait shop, the payphone that shouldn't have power but still hums when you walk by, the FEMA test that runs at 2:22 a.m. claiming it was routine. Nothing's routine anymore. Here's where I stop being a storyteller and start being what this country used to have, a guide, because after this, the line doesn't call me, it calls you. If your gut tightens. When I say this next part, you're already halfway through the door. Go to the comments. Not tomorrow, right now. Type this twice. The signal carries. The signal carries. Not because it protects you, because it marks you as awake, in a land where most men choose sleep. They built America on connections, rails, wires, highways, but they never controlled what moves between them. You heard the hum. You read the names. Now the only question is, when your phone rings tonight, will you answer?